we must never forget that no government schemes are going to perfect man. We know that living in this world means dealing with what philosophers would call the phenomenology of evil, or as theologians would put it, the doctrine of sin. There is sin and evil in the world, and we're enjoined by Scripture and the Lord Jesus to oppose it with all our might.
Coming to you live from the corner of Fauci and Burks on Constitution on Fire Avenue, it's the America Held Hostage Podcast. America's Constitution in Quarantine. Now here are your hosts, Jeff Dornik and John Hinton.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of America Held Hostage Podcast. We are back as we are pretty much every single day, just bringing you guys the news, keeping up on what's going on. But the key is looking at everything from a Christian and conservative perspective, which is really what we're trying to do at the GK in general. And so, you know, with the GK, we're putting out podcasts. I think I calculated yesterday we've got like 10 or 11 podcasts that we're putting out now on a regular basis. We're setting up a new system right now for distributing the audio podcasts. And so that way every single show will have its own feed on iTunes. That's going to be really cool. Then you can go in, you can subscribe to whichever your show is favorite that you want to be listening to, that sort of thing. So that's really cool. We're working on some really cool projects and all of that. Wanted to remind you, we do have the books that we've got with the GK publishing side of things. We've got Social Injustice, which really takes a look at the social justice issue, comparing everything with Scripture, and then making sure that, you know, we can see what is biblically accurate, what is not. And then another book that we've got coming out this summer is Pastor Sam Jones' book, 5 Steps to Kill a Nation and How to Stop the Bleeding. I highly, highly recommend pre-ordering that book. You know, I've already read the majority of the chapters so far. Great book, vitally important, and it's specifically dealing with the very things that we are talking about on a daily basis here at the America Held Hostage Podcast. So for more information on those books, you guys can go to gatekeepersonline.com/store. Check out those books. You can use either the code Jeff or the code John. You get 10% off of anything there in the store. We're going to be adding some more products here pretty soon. Again, just resources, things that can help you out there. So we're kicking things off today. I know yesterday we were jam-packed with news stories. I know today's not going to be any different. But I feel like we're kind of getting at this point now where we're kind of coming to a head between, you know, the conservative side of things and the progressive side of things. And I'm hearing more and more people are talking about like protesting and getting out there and, you know, pushing back against these attacks on our rights and that sort of thing. So I know we've got a lot of news, a lot to cover. But John, we're back for another day. Another round of news stories. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Yes, we are.
There we go.
And we're getting ready to go down more rabbit trails of news. So let's get started.
There we go.
San Diego Comic-Con was canceled due to coronavirus's pandemic. Tickets can be refunded or transferred to the 2021 show. If you are a comic book or any sort of pop culture movie nerd, that's usually the creme de la creme for the world of nerds, myself included. So if there were any big sci-fi comic book action-related movies, that's usually where they're premiered. There's always a lot of buzz. And that's down in your neck of the woods of Southern California, Jeff. So that's a huge blow to the San Diego economy, and yet another casualty of the panic porn known as coronavirus.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Comic-Con. I've got a lot of friends that go. They go every year. I've never been personally, but like I know they jam pack that conference center full of hundreds of thousands of people jam-packed into that thing. And I know that alone provides so much income and resources for a lot of the businesses down in San Diego. Again, like you're saying, like this is a serious repercussion of a lot of these decisions of completely shutting down. And again, it's one of those things. We got to weigh taking care of public safety, but then also we got to make sure that we're taking care of small businesses, and so right now I feel like we're really failing on the economic side of things. So
we are. Another reminder that government is there not to help you, but to grease the skids of the wealthy and the elite. Carol Roth tweeted out last Friday, a reminder that Harvard, basically a hedge fund masquerading as a university with north of $40 billion in assets in their endowment, with over $200 million of cash on hand at this moment, will receive $9 million in a grant under the CARES Act, while small businesses are being told that the funds that are there to help them out have run out. Yeah, that says it. That says it, Jeff. I can't even with that. You have $40 million in assets, $200 million in cash at hand, and you want $9 million for yourself. Meanwhile, businesses are going under.
Yeah, it shows how corrupt our politicians are, in that they are throwing money that should be going to helping Americans, going to help their favorite pet projects that have the resources to get through all this, and instead decide, hey, let's keep our stash of money. Let's take this handout from the government. All the while, people don't know where their next meal is going to come from.
Andy Ngo, who is a huge Twitter reporter, he is reported on Antifa in the West Coast and all across the fruited plain, reporting from the UK Times that the UK government spent 16 million euros, $20 million in U.S. funds, ordering COVID-19 home testing kits from China. Shocker, Jeff. Those tests turned out to be flawed and defective.
Who saw that coming?
Well, hasn't this been a trend that we've been seeing over the podcast the last 2 weeks? We're ordering stuff from China, and it's turning out to be defective.
Again, like I keep saying this over and over and over, stop buying from China. Buy U.S. There's plenty of resources. Again, here in the United States, Donald Trump has set up an entire system within America for testing, with ventilators, with all the precautions and everything that we need to be doing. And yet these governors and local communities and things like that, they're deciding, no, we're not going to go with the U.S. stuff. We're going to go with South Korea. We're going to go with China. We're going to go with all of this. And it's just like, stick with America. Let's fix this problem. If we keep going back to these other countries, we're never going to fix this problem.
We alluded to yesterday that over the weekend I'd sent you some news DMs that the number of deaths in the Wuhan province had doubled, if not tripled, the number of deaths total in that province, and also the deaths in China, Jeff. But before that happened, President Trump came under fire Friday afternoon for saying, do you think we're getting honest numbers from some of these countries, when he questioned the death toll statistics from China's official coronavirus death toll counts? Once again, proving Trump's gut was right. That was Friday afternoon at 2:16. Later on that night, they tripled their numbers. I love it when he goes with his gut, and then he's proven right, and then everyone has egg on their face, and all these pagan progressives continue to just ignore it. And I think his gut would have been right. America needed to reopen the Monday after Easter. Now we need to start reopening everything May 1st, except for the epicenter, which is New York, New Jersey. We're going to be here till probably the 4th of July with these draconian lockdowns. But everybody else needs to go back to work.
Yeah, and I feel like that, dealing with this specific issue too. That's why I appreciate what President Trump has set up for his plan to reopen the country. Is we're taking things on a case by case basis. If you're having problems, we're not going to open you up. But if you're not having problems, get back to work. And I think that was a very smart move on his part. And he's not getting the credit that he deserves in his response to all of this.
It's very true. It's very true. But I think as time goes on, we're going to see that he was proven more right about his gut, and the left is going to continue to go more left and more pagan and more progressive, and they're going to overplay their hand. I think at this point, if the election were to be held today, I don't think Trump would win. But that's my opinion, just because of how many people are watching local and state-funded media news, the mainstream media, who are basically just pagan progressive talking points that are selling fear porn to Americans. That's why I think that. But you go on and you expose the fact that Democrats are stopping you from being able to get funds to keep you on your job, that they're wanting to hold you over a barrel when it comes to they want to keep you from going back to your job because they want certain green funding. Eventually, I think that they're going to overplay their hand in certain blue states. And what our governor has a 71% approval rating right now. You keep these draconian measures going down through the 4th of July, I guarantee those numbers drop by 30% because people are just going to be tired of it. And I think that that's what's going to happen nationwide in certain states. And I think it plays into Trump's hand. And I think he needs to stay on message. Just you expose the lies of the media. You don't have to keep picking fights. But then when you do the things that you need to do, and eventually people are going to see that they're not doing their job. They're not in session in Washington, D.C. You've been there from the beginning. You haven't been to Mar-a-Lago. You haven't been on the golf course. You haven't been watching Fox News for 6 to 8 hours a night. You've been actually doing your job. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi's on James Corden, while people in California are in basically modern versions of bread lines waiting to get to food banks for food. And she's talking to James Corden about her $24,000 refrigerator and freezer and how she has certain types of chocolate ice cream being shipped in. Let them eat cake. And that ad that Trump released last night, totally eviscerating them, delicious. Yeah. Absolutely scrumptious.
Yeah. Well, the thing with that whole Nancy Pelosi to me showed us is just how out of touch our politicians are. And part of the problem is that when you get into politics and you become a career politician, it's kind of like how I always compare it with megachurch pastors. You're not going through life with your congregation. I feel like it's the same way with a lot of these lifetime politicians, is that they're not going through life with their constituents, right? Like Nancy Pelosi, she lives in San Francisco, but she's got her castle up on a hill with a giant wall that nobody can cross over, and she's in her own little empire, and she's got the money, she's got the funds that she can stock up her fridge with all of the food that she wants. She could have anything that she wants, right? The problem is that she doesn't have to live under the repercussions of her own laws because she's used her political position for financial gain, and then now when there's
she's worth over $100 million, Jeff.
Yeah, because making a couple $100,000 a year as a representative really will make you worth that much money.
No, it's bribes, baby. It's those K Street lobbyists and those $1,000 steak dinners at Ruth's Chris in D.C., baby. That's why Ruth's Chris got $20 million from D.C., because that's where those lobbyists take their elected leaders out and wine them and dine them. But Ruth's Chris is a high-end steakhouse. They don't need $20 million. There's over 85,000 businesses that, because there wasn't money there, they weren't able to get the Paycheck Protection Program approved. It ran out of money, $350 billion in 13 days. And now we're going to have to put in another $350 billion. And it's because of people like Nancy Pelosi.
Yep. Completely out of touch.
Mene, tekel parson, you have been weighed, measured, and found wanting. Enjoy your front row seat, reserved just for you, in the eternal smoking section. I do have a correction when it comes to what we talked about. We broke news earlier yesterday. I just got a text from my little birdie inside the Illinois Department of Health. So if you're watching this, it's right here. I am going to update our story. We reported exclusively here to the America Held Hostage podcast that Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois was calling up National Guard medical forces to go to elderly care and disabled care facilities because of the spread of coronavirus in those facilities and people not wearing PPE. My little birdie is telling me he just wanted to make a correction. He's watching this live. He said, I heard your podcast yesterday. Just wanted to correct you on something when I got more information this morning about the story I broke to you. The Illinois National Guard were sent to 3 specific locations, 2 elderly care facilities and 1 disabled care facility. My agency works closely with one of those disabled care facilities. I don't know which one, but 80 out of 89 patients in one of those facilities was infected with coronavirus, all due to staff not wearing proper protective equipment. We're unknown how many staff are infected. Sorry for the misleading story. Just wanted to follow up with a correction. So we did that. Just wanted to follow up on that story, Jeff, and we'll continue. Discern News is reporting. This is good news. If you're a constitutionalist, a Christian, a conservative, a pro-life advocate, more good news. 5,600 Planned Parenthood clinics worldwide have been closed due to the coronavirus pandemic. I say, praise the Lord, Jeff.
I'm with you there.
The U.S. Daily Mail reported that the FBI is warning that foreign state-backed hackers are targeting U.S. companies publicly working on COVID-19 treatments. In a follow-up, the FBI is also warning that scammers are using mass text services to text people via 5 or 6 digit numbered code, an automated text message saying you may have coronavirus, you may need to get testing, click here on the link, and then they ask you for personal information that then they can use to hack you via backdoors on your phone and then be able to access certain password protected logins that could be privy to personal information. So a warning about that. Not only are companies being targeted, but also just personal Americans, because never underestimate total depravity. I did love this story Friday, Jeff. I wondered if you saw this viral picture. A fully dressed Master Chief standing in water right next to Emerald Isle, North Carolina, was on the beach where the beaches and waters were closed Friday morning. He stood there for approximately 3 hours in his full dress uniform in front of a sign that said Land of the Free. 3 hours later, Emerald Isle opened the beach and water back up to the public. A great American.
Yeah. Again, taking a stand and got results. Good for him.
Good for him indeed. The Racine, Wisconsin sheriff. So the Racine County, Wisconsin sheriff says that he says he won't enforce the Wisconsin governor's unconstitutional stay-at-home order. He said, quote, I took an oath to uphold the constitutional rights of our citizens, and I cannot in good faith participate in the destruction of Racine County businesses or interfere in the freedoms granted to all of us by our Constitution. Jeff, I would agree. And your last line of defense against tyranny is going to be your state and local law enforcement against the tyranny of your own state and local officials. And if they don't draw the line, no one will. My little birdie in a Philadelphia area law enforcement facility, he's a local cop, and I told him the same thing. If you don't make the choice now that there are certain lines you won't cross, then you will be pressured at some point to just obey orders. You have to choose this day whom you will serve. You have to make that decision now. And then when that day of trouble comes, you say, no, I will not comply. Because those are the only men of history that are ever remembered. Those are the only men of history that they ever will take a stand, and then they're shown to be men of great worth. And it doesn't matter how small your stature is. It doesn't matter how great your stature is in light of history. There's a lot of men that refused to comply, and they were just as needed in the battle for the Revolution as our founding fathers. But no one knows their names. But they were unknown patriots who fought beside George Washington in Valley Forge, crossing the Delaware, in the Battle of Trenton. This is my backyard where I'm living right now, in light of the Liberty Bell. Trenton is 30 minutes north of me. A lot of people forget that. And you need to, I would say, and I would encourage our listeners, you need to make that stand. You need to share this podcast. You need to share your voice. You need to make your voice heard. You need to encourage your other friends to also choose this day whom you will serve. But to quote Joshua, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I'm not going to comply with your unconstitutional edicts. My rights do not come from government. They come from God. You can do with me what you will.
Yeah, and we need to remember that our founding fathers did set up checks and balances, and this is one of those checks and balances where, sheriffs and police and all of that, they made a commitment to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So when a governor or a mayor or a state makes a decision that goes against the rights that are preserved for us by the Constitution of the United States, essentially the sheriff has a responsibility to uphold the Constitution over the lower decision of the governor, mayor, whatever that might be. And so, good for that sheriff for doing that.
Amen. In your own backyard, LifeSiteNews.com is reporting a California mayor resigns after comparing Trump supporters to the KKK. And I'm seeing an uptick in this across social media, that now people like April Ryan, a CNN contributor, says that she hopes that medical care is refused to Trump supporters who refuse to abide by these stay-at-home edicts, that there are also certain leftists that are hoping that Trump supporters will die because they want their way of life back and they want to go to work. This is just demonic, Jeff, that you're calling people, you're wanting people to die. Meanwhile, people that you disagree with, but meanwhile, you're saying, well, we have to do this in order to save lives. So do you want to save lives or do you want to kill people? It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's something that I think that we as conservatives can do a better job at. And I'm not saying, I'm not putting the blame on us by any means, because this kind of stuff should never be happening in the first place. But I think that we as conservatives in general oftentimes fall into the trap of coming across as like heartless, and we don't care about people. We don't care about people's safety. We don't care about people's health. And that goes for the immigration side. It goes for dealing with coronavirus. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is we need to do a better job of articulating our positions in a way that shows, no, this is what's actually better for you individually. This is what's better for you on a health side. This is what's better, across the board and across the spectrum, as opposed to it just being, it's about the money. Because I think that, honestly, the economy is vitally important, but we need to explain why. It's to avoid suicide. It's to give people worth. It's to where people don't know, people can actually provide for their families and give their children food at night, as opposed to running out of food and not having any source of income to be able to replenish their freezer. We need to be able to articulate our positions in a better way and a more effective way, to where they can't come back and say, all you care about is money. And I think that goes for this. It goes for the illegal immigration debate. It goes for the healthcare debate. It goes for a lot of these issues that we need to show that this works on all levels, not just on the economic side of things.
Amen. Amen. This was a very troubling story that I saw tweeted. Now, Alex Berenson has been breaking a lot of news on Twitter, a former New York Times reporter. Great follow at Alex Berenson on Twitter, and that's Berenson. But he had a reply that he wanted to follow up on. And someone said, I have a friend who's a New York City police sergeant, and he confirmed that a Belt Parkway accident victim was marked as a COVID-19 death due to a test performed on the corpse. He was at the scene and followed up on the paperwork. Now, Alex is following up on this, but I thought that's just a hardcore example of how New York City is fudging the numbers. Belt Parkway, if you've ever been in New York City, it is the parkway that after you cross over from Staten Island, then it's the parkway that takes you across the lower part of the Brooklyn borough around to connect you to Long Island. That's so, and it always has a lot of traffic. It's a 6-lane highway that connects you to the Verrazano Bridge. But the fact that happened, if that's true, that once again, that's doctrine of demon stuff, just to falsify paperwork to help push a narrative that people are dying. If that guy died from a car accident and he had COVID-19, COVID-19 isn't the reason that he died. It's that he lost control of his vehicle. He just happened to have COVID-19 when he passed away, but he was probably asymptomatic. Alex Berenson also reporting that Alabama is reopening for business May 1st. That was Friday. Yesterday, we found out 3 more states are going to be opening up for business starting this weekend. Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina, to which I say more cowbell. And you're going to find more red states are going to take the risk. Yes, there's going to be another surge of cases. There's probably going to be another surge of deaths, unfortunately. But we don't have a vaccine. We can't shut down for 18 months. And the only way that you beat this is herd immunity. So you have to let this run its course. And to those that would say, my body, my choice, that's what I would counter with. We inherently live with risk. I'm willing to take the risk that if I don't have the antibodies now, I take the risk that I may come down with it. And I'm okay to live with that risk, but I'm not going to stop living my life. And we have to get over the economic carnage that's about to come sooner rather than later. And the further that we prolong this, the worse that carnage is going to be, Jeff.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and that's part of the problem is that I think what we've actually been doing from a scientific standpoint is we've been actually stunting our ability to actually defeat this thing by everybody hiding. And I think that what we could have done, what we should be doing, is we need to be protecting those that are highest risk, the people with diabetes, that are older, that have immune issues, that have cancer, that have liver issues, things like that. We need to be protecting them. Though we need to make sure that even in states that are opening back up, that those people aren't going back to work because they're at highest risk to actually die from this thing, right? So we need to take care of those people, but at the same time, for those that don't have those risks, the best way to beat this thing is to actually go forward and get as many people with those antibodies and having immunity as possible for herd immunity. So I think that's vitally important moving forward if we're actually going to beat this thing. Because again, we can't sit around waiting 18 months for Bill Gates for his vaccine, which is interesting that I'm hearing that Israel is supposed to have their vaccine within 6 weeks, I think it is, and nobody's talking about that because they all want Bill Gates for some reason. I wonder why that could be.
How much you want to bet that we said it before last week? Trump's going to call Bibi Netanyahu and he's gonna order that vaccine when it comes through. He is not gonna wait for Bill Gates. By the way, we're finding out Bill Gates, I think, just as evil as George Soros.
Oh yeah, no,
Just going to put that out there.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing, and my good friend Dustin Faulkner, he's got his show Battlefront Southgate here on the GK Podcast Network. If any of you guys get the chance, go listen to his last episode, which is on Event 201. And he breaks that down, and that was something that Bill Gates was involved with, and literally they were predicting everything that was going to happen years ago, and he breaks down that just how evil and manipulative that they were, and that Bill Gates is. And so I would definitely highly recommend anybody go take a listen to that. It's like 40 minutes long. Highly recommend that episode.
Free plug, shameless self-promotion, the GK Podcast Network.
That's how we roll.
I'm at Hinton _. He's at Jeff the GK. Listen, find, follow, and we continue. Joe Concha tweeted the Florida death toll from the Bill Gates arm of the University of Wisconsin, or the University of Washington, the IHME, which we've proven on this podcast has been an utter joke throughout all of this, Jeff. They just dropped Florida's death toll models from 4,748 deaths earlier this week by August 4th to 1,363. This is Common Core type math. I swear, it's horrible, absolutely horrible. Now, in your backyard, you live close to this area, I believe. I think you're in the Huntington Beach, OC area, but in Venice Beach over the weekend, we saw skate parks on the beach that were being filled with 74,000 pounds. That's over 36 tons of sand. You want to talk about tyranny. Filling those skate parks has nothing to do with stopping coronavirus. It has everything to do with just giving a middle finger to people that just want to get out and have fun, which we're finding out that the virus spreads when you're indoors, not outdoors. So this isn't based in science. This is based in tyranny. Well, wouldn't you know that over the weekend, Jeff, I turned to my wife and I said, how much you want to bet that those nonconformist skateboarders are going to take brooms, they're going to take shovels, and they're going to clean that up, and they're going to be back to skating. And sure enough, a little American ingenuity and rugged patriotism. And what did they do? They turned that skate park into a dirt bike park, and then they cleaned off parts of it on video. And made it a skate park once again. And something tells me those kids don't know what they're actually doing, but that's actually American revolutionary in the sense that, no, I won't comply. And if you fill it up again, I'll just clean it up again. You're not gonna be the boss of me.
Yeah, and dealing with an issue like this, it becomes this idea of, I want to know who made that call to decide.
Oh, it was a local official, Oh,
yeah.
You know it.
But like specifically, I want to know who made that call to think, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take sand and we're going to fill this up. Not thinking about the repercussions, like, okay, so who's going to clean this up later? Who's going to clear this out later? Again, practically speaking, if you wanted to close it down, they have temporary fences that you could just put up around. Not fill it in with, like, it just doesn't even make logical sense to me if you're trying to shut something down that you're going to go fill it with sand.
You're just creating more work for yourself after this is over. If you're a public official,
probably needed to find some work for the local unions. So
probably it was interesting to see the viral picture that I posted on my Instagram, Jeff. But the picture was that famous Chinese man standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square, and then someone photoshopped a skateboarder standing in front of that skid loader that was dumping sand in that skate park. Said 1989 Tiananmen Square, 2020 Venice Beach. tyranny much? I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Because it proves a great point. Now, I wanted to get to this story because you've been talking about the need for treating our bodies as a temple, as Scripture says, eating clean, because if we would have done that and we would have been focused on proper food and proper exercise, we would be in a better place right now than we are dealing with this. This came from Discern News over the weekend. Preliminary studies are indicating that obesity is contributing to severe cases of coronavirus. So, several preliminary medical reviews of coronavirus cases indicate that obesity is a significant determinant of severe infections of the disease, shedding further light on why some individuals and not others are particularly stricken by COVID-19. This article written by Daniel Payne of Discern News. Researchers out of New York University, so NYU, and Cornell University have observed elevated cases of COVID-19 in patients with higher body mass indexes. Only old age was a more consistent predictor of severe cases. Notably, scientists have tentatively found out that obesity itself, and not the underlying conditions that often come with being severely overweight, qualifies as a major risk factor towards coronavirus. Patients with underlying symptoms of any kind make up the vast majority of severe coronavirus cases and deaths. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, like when you so basically when you look at America and you look at the health problems that people have, the majority of it, like I've always said, it comes from eating processed food, it comes from eating crap, it comes from an unhealthy lifestyle, it comes from drinking too much, things like that. Very prevalent here in America. The thing is that I always want to be careful. I don't think that it's necessarily just because you weigh more, you're more likely to get coronavirus and die. What I think it is that typically the people who weigh more are the people who aren't eating healthy. They're eating garbage. They're filling their bodies with crap, and then they get diabetes, and then they get cancer. They have liver issues. They've got all these health problems that are caused by the, shall we call it, unholy type food that you're putting into your body. And I think it's one of those things where if we could clean up our food system and we could get people to understand, hey, you can still have a steak, but you don't have to deep fry it in crap oil and with cheap breadcrumbs from Walmart. You can make the same thing, but make it healthier, cleaner ingredients. More than likely, you're not going to get diabetes. More than likely, you're going to lower your chances of getting cancer, of getting liver damage, of having a lot of health issues. And it's just one of those things that I keep hammering home. And every time I look at the science and I look at the research and things like that, it just keeps reconfirming my belief on this. And I think that this is one area where Christians and conservatives are really failing, is that we're not leading the way on putting and making good decisions for what we're putting in our bodies. It's like we kind of have that mentality of, you can't tell me what to eat, and then we go grab a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's like, well, okay, cool. Maybe we don't want the government mandating you to eat a McDonald's cheeseburger, but I'm never gonna go eat one. I haven't touched a fast food burger in probably 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, something like that. And it's like, for me, it's like it's my decision. Like, I'm going to be responsible with what I put in my body. And in all reality, I'm the only person in my family without health issues.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
I'm with you. I don't think I've touched a double cheeseburger from any place, any sort of fast food from a place except like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I haven't touched any of the big fast food chains probably in 8-9 years. It's just garbage. I can find better stuff, and there's more options now. There's healthier options now. Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, Qdoba. You can find Moe's Southwest Grill, or I'm sure that there are plenty of places in Southern California that, or maybe a Salad Works, or just all sorts of places that just have better quality, fresher ingredients, healthier options. rather than just filling your gut with just nothing more than fried rot.
Yeah, in like during the lockdown, we've been doing what we call like a Whole 30, which is literally you for 30 days you eat food in its whole state, and so it's like meat and vegetables and fruit and like all the healthy stuff, but there's no processed anything. There's no you can't even like mix things together to make a bread or a pizza or whatever it is. Like you're literally eating the food in its whole state. And it's a lot cleaner. I feel like I've got a lot more energy. And we're like, okay, so if we're locked down, let's not just stuff our faces full of bread and processed food and pre-made foods. Hey, we're going to take the time and we're just going to have whole food. And it's been great.
Well, we've been eating a lot more at home during this pandemic, and we've been eating a whole lot more healthier meals. So, it's been tremendous for us, not just health-wise, but also budget-wise.
Very true.
Now, this is an interesting story. This was coming from the New York Times. Drones donated by DJI, a Chinese company, have gone to 43 agencies in 22 states, all to help enforce social distancing rules. Dystopian 1984 much? The U.S. is using Chinese drones to spy on and lecture Americans about a virus caused by communist China. Oh, by the way, DJI, quote, may be sending data to China. DJI says we're providing the U.S. critical infrastructure and law enforcement data to the Chinese government.
So let's just welcome in the spies.
Right. So now local law enforcement is using them in response to the China virus and admitting that the data may be being used by our enemies that caused this? You got to be kidding me.
All while they're not giving us any information.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, nothing to see here. Everything's fine, Jeff. We don't have to worry about our enemies trying to defeat us. There's nothing to see here. Good grief.
I mean, to me, that's like taking polling or voting stations from Russia.
Right? Yeah, it's not like they're gonna try and defeat you and hack you and manipulate your election. They're just friends. They just want to help.
Yeah.
The Wall Street Journal, the New York Fed leader tells the Wall Street Journal, I don't see the economy coming back to full strength by the end of this year. It's going to take us longer to get back to where we want to be. The longer that this goes on, and I saw this on Fox Business yesterday, so they've been fighting this for the last month, and now they're having to admit we're not in a recession, we're in a depression. They reported that the Fed has internal documents that they're expecting that upwards of 50 million Americans are going to be unemployed by the end of this. That's a third of the workforce. We keep saying it before, the economic carnage out of this is going to be ungodly in its wake. And the fact that yesterday you saw a barrel of oil, West Texas Intermediate, WTI, trade for negative $37 a barrel. That means that companies that produce the oil are now having to pay companies to take the oil so that it can be stored because oil demand consumption, gasoline, has dropped off by a third in a month because of this. We have no place to put it, Jeff. And that's just one domino in a series of dominoes. The rest of this year is going to be terrible to watch because I think the worst of it is we're not even there yet.
I do have to say, from a business perspective, I mean, I've got a garage. I'll store some oil if somebody wants to pay me.
Well, you might have your opportunity, Jeff. Might have your opportunity. So, President Trump redirected the money that the U.S. was going to give the World Health Organization. He redirected it to the Red Cross and Samaritan's Purse. I thought that was a classy move. Also found out that once a Jacksonville beach was opened at 5 p.m. Saturday, the U.S. Daily Mail reported it was crowded, and they showed the pictures. It was crowded within 30 minutes. Why? Because Americans love freedom. ABC 6 Action News in Philadelphia reports that Philadelphia has no plans in the near future to reopen the city for business as the coronavirus battle continues. And you're going to see that. You're seeing red states are going back to work come this weekend. You're going to see Democrats double down on the dumb. And there's going to be a huge divide. The rest of America, I believe, by Memorial Day, 95% of it is going to go back to work. You're going to see places like California, Washington, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, and New York. They're going to be locked down. And that is when the real protests start. Well, we have a lot more stories to get to, and we will get to those tomorrow. One last one that I wanted to share with you, and then I have a funny story, commentary, and we'll be off for the day. This was from Alex Berenson as well. It was a first-hand account from a New York City physician, and he was emailed this, and then he was given the opportunity and the permission to share it online, and I wanted to read it to you. I'm a surgeon, Alex, here in New York City. I'm in private practice, and we are deemed essential, but we decided to close our practice until, that's blacked out. Until then, I signed up to work at the NYC Public Hospitals, H&H, taking care of medical COVID patients. I don't know exactly how deaths are being coded, but I can tell you that virtually every single ER admission to the hospitals are suspected COVID or COVID rule-out patients, regardless of their symptoms or the reason for their admission. For example, I'd say that half my patients right now are being ruled out and even treated for COVID. And even though their symptoms are not consistent with COVID at all, that's what we do. To give one specific example, I currently have a patient who tested negative and has no symptoms for COVID-19, but he's still listed under the COVID registry in the chart simply because they were tested. Obviously, I'm very limited on the amount of information I can give because of HIPAA laws. I don't think this is necessary. This is necessarily some conspiracy to overinflate COVID numbers, but I do believe at this time COVID's on everyone's mind, so people are assuming that coronavirus is ultimately the reason everyone comes to the ER and gets admitted. So virtually all of them get tested and listed in the registry. I suspect they're counted as COVID hospitalizations, even if the reason they are admitted has changed. He said, you can certainly use the info that I'm providing to you, but don't use my name. As for numbers, the inpatient hospital numbers and ER visits are definitely decreasing. On Tuesday, our unit had 36 patients. Today, we have 27. So this was of last week. Of those, only 13 were confirmed COVID-19 patients. Of those, 11 were actually admitted because of COVID, which is a higher rate than usual. Usually, only about 70% of COVID-positive patients are admitted. The other non-COVID patients were admitted for other medical reasons not related to coronavirus and have either tested negative or their tests are pending. Oh, again, hope this helps. Thanks again for all your hard work. This is a bad disease, but I firmly believe the lockdowns ultimately are doing more harm than good across the country, especially here in New York City, to which I would agree. Our funny story that we will end today with comes from the UK, and it also comes from our friends at Discern News. A British woman's attraction to chandeliers ruled not to be protected by a British judge. It's not a protected sexual identity. A British woman who claims to be in a long-term relationship with a 92-year-old chandelier was told her attraction to the light fixture is not a protected sexual orientation. Amanda Liberty from Leeds, England, complained that an article written by Sun columnist Jane Moore mocked her love affair with Lumineer, the name for her antique light fitting that she bought on eBay in 2016 for $500. She claims the newspaper breached the Press Regulator Code of Conduct, which says that publishers must avoid prejudicial and derogatory language when referring to an individual's sexual orientation. The UK's Independent Press Standards Organisation ruled that her attraction to the chandelier did not fall within the definition of sexual orientation. What bigots, Jeff? The Sun argued the press regulation code only applies to those who are attracted to people, not animals or things. Ooh, okay, so we can't get our pagan debauchery on. No bestiality for anyone? Wow, just such hatred. The publication also pointed out that since Liberty had agreed to speak publicly about her relationship in the past, Moore was allowed to comment. Liberty previously had been in love with the Statue of Liberty, prompting her to change her last name from Whitaker to Liberty. To which I say, give me your tired, your poor, your chandelier-loving masses yearning to breathe free.
Yeah, the principle that I take from that is, and it's a really interesting one, is that, remember, only America truly has freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and that's one of the things. So like the fact that they're actually having a debate and a conversation over what is protected speech and what is not protected speech shows the root problem in virtually every other country. There's certain opinions that they don't want you to be able to have.
True. And they can say that you can be attracted to anything, or a bathroom is whatever you want. But there's a line when it comes to inanimate objects and animals. Why is there a line?
Yeah.
You've already blurred the lines before. Why not just open it up for anything? My commentary is a simple quote to close up by former General and President Dwight D. Eisenhower. If you want total security, go to prison. There, you're fed, clothed, given medical care, and so on. The only thing lacking is freedom.
Yeah, I mean that's short, simple, but to the point. And and in all reality, like that's one of those things. It's like when we're dealing with a lot of these kinds of issues, the thing is that we have to remember that there are constitutional rights that are given to us, including freedom and liberty, and the right for us to make decisions. And I think that, and I've said this quite often, is whether or not the government was requiring us to stay home during this. My wife and I would. My argument becomes the government doesn't have the authority to enforce it. They have the authority to recommend, and I believe that that's where the government needs to take a better approach moving forward. Is the government needs to recommend things. So like whether it's the Department of Education or the FDA or whatever organization it might be, they need to put out recommendations, even strong recommendations. But as soon as they start getting into enforcing it with threat of arrest, that's where they are overstepping their bounds constitutionally. And then I think we as Americans need to be able to push back. There's a reason why our founding fathers gave us checks and balances and gave us the opportunity to vote for people, is that if we don't like the direction that the government's going, we have the authority to kick out the people that are in authority right now, because it's a government by the people and for the people. So as we're moving forward as conservatives and as Americans, the thing that we need to remember is that the government is supposed to be working for us. We're not working for the government. They're our servants. We're not their servants. And that's the thing that we need to remember. We have the authority to put in place those who we want. So as we're heading into election season, I don't want to be politicizing, coronavirus or anything like along those lines. But when we're heading into election season, we have a clear-cut choice. Is the candidate for freedom and liberty, or are they for tyranny and authoritarianism? That's literally the choice that we have heading into election season. So I think that what we need to be doing is we need to be looking at the candidates through that prism. Are you for liberty, or are you for tyranny? And as we're weighing our options, that's definitely something that we need to be considering. So that's what I want to leave you with.
I would follow up and say, you have a choice whether to back a candidate that sees you as we the people, or they see you as the sheeple.
Yep.
It's pretty clear. Either you're the boss, or they think they're your boss.
Yep, it's a good way to put it. So that's the news for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you're following us both on Twitter. I'm at Jeff the GK. John is at @jhinton_. I know he's constantly posting a bunch of news articles. Definitely, if you want to keep up on what's going on, definitely follow him there on Twitter. He's constantly putting stuff out. And then tonight. Just wanted to let you guys know, tonight we're doing our monthly episode of Connected, which is a roundtable podcast featuring some GK, some of your favorite GK guys. So tonight we've got Dr. Mike Spalding, myself, Pastor Sam Jones, and Dustin Faulkner are going to have a roundtable. You guys get to decide what we talk about, and you get to control the conversation. So throughout the show, post your comments, questions, ideas, topics, whatever it might be. You control the direction that we are going to go with that episode, and then the recording will be exclusively for members of Plugged In. So if you want information on getting plugged in, go to gatekeepersonline.com/plugged in for all of that information. But make sure you guys tune in tonight, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, for a conversation with myself, Dr. Mike Spalding, Pastor Sam Jones, and Dustin Faulkner. We did this last time. It was a blast, had a lot of fun. This is sure to be no different as well. So we will see you guys then, and then we'll be back again tomorrow with the America Held Hostage podcast. We shall see you guys then. Thanks.